Hello everybody, my name is Alan, I'm from Sauber-Lab, and today will be another video about how you can configure your server in relationship of, yes, a Raspberry Pi. In this video it's a little bit not fair competition because I will explain a little bit about GPU. If you can see, Raspberry Pi don't have an option to put a GPU, so if you consider hardware transcoding, will be really bad. But wait. It's not for everybody that will be suitable this video, because transcoding will be more for videos. And if you want to assemble your server only to do share folders or anything related for it, and you don't need any transcode or any extra processor that will use a GPU, so it's not useful for you, but it's interesting for you to know the difference and what you can have about it. So if you like this video and want to learn a little bit about it, we're gonna show you this video, but first of all, don't forget to leave your like, consider to subscribe for the channel, and let's understand a little bit more about it. First thing that I'm gonna say, at the moment you cannot put a GPU in a Raspberry Pi, so I know that's not a fair competition, but you need to consider it, because once that you want to run some applications that you will need to transcode video or use some machine learning, a Raspberry Pi will not have enough power to do it. And then you need to consider an option to go for a server. Not consider only the power consumption, but you need to consider what application that you need to run. Other thing, when you decide to have a GPU, you have a different kind of GPUs and different applications that you can have using that specific GPU. In this reason, I look specific for transcoding, video transcoding. You can have another applications, but if this GPU work for video transcode, most of the times will work well for others applications. Only if you need really specific some kind of a GPU that will work only for your application. Otherwise, the GPUs that work for transcode video will work really well for most of the others application that you need. So in this way, I open this website where they explain a little bit more about it, and that it can show some examples for you. The best way to understand what I'm talking is to show the examples. Okay, the first condition that we're gonna look, it's transcode between 720p to 480p. And this one is one of the basic transcode, and you don't need so much power for it, do it. So in here have a list of different GPUs that you can use, or most of GPUs in the market that work well for this transcode. They will not look for really old ones, either that you can set up really old, but the old ones will not work well, or at least will not work as you can expect. Depending on which kind of a GPU that you're using, you can transcode more users in the same format. So if I look for a quite old GPU, that it's a GTX 950, you can transcode 10 users at the same time. But if you look for different GPUs, you can transcode 86 users in the same time. So as much as I go up, will be more difficult to transcode, and they use more for your GPU. What you cannot configure in Raspberry Pi, but you can configure or can consider in a server. So if I come for a 4K to Full HD or 1080p, you reduce the quantity of transcode that you can have. So in this case, that GPU that was able to transcode 10 simultaneous transcode, now they can only transcode 2 users. And maybe not barely 2, they have problems to transcode those 2. And I'll explain why, but first, they can only transcode 2. And if I go for more expensive GPUs, you can transcode 3, you can transcode 11, you can transcode 13. Not necessarily the more expensive ones will be better performance, but you need to consider how many users or how many simultaneous transcode that you want to have. In this way, you have different ways of GPUs that have a different family and that have different chips at different bandwidth and some limitations for it. Depending on which kind of GPU that you go, they will have a limitation of 3 transcode, or some of those it's unlimited transcode. But not necessarily that those that have unlimited transcode, they will be able to transcode as many as possible, because have a limitation of how much VRAM that you will need for each kind of transcode. other GPUs that it's from Maxwell family, they will not be able to transcode H265. If you go for Pascal, I believe that all of those can transcode this H265 option. Other thing that's interesting for you, look, if you go for a Quattro that have 4 GB of VRAM, and if you go for a 1080p Ti, the bandwidth is quite high, but the limitation is exactly the same. In this way, a 1050 Ti maybe will consume a little bit more energy than a Pascal or a Quattro, because a GTX, it's made for games, that will work well for transcode, will work for other things. If you go for a Quattro, they are already computer based, and that they are only made for calculation, for CAD, they are made for this kind of applications, different for a GTX that is made for other kind of applications. But it's not limitations, only a power consumption. Normally those Quattro will consume less power than a 1080p or a GTX. If you go a little bit more down, each one will have more RAM memory. Not necessarily that the ones that have 16 GB of RAM memory, you can really transcode simultaneously more. Other thing that you need to consider that I told, it's the VRAM, or how much VRAM that your system has. So in this way, I have this screen. Up to a 1080p or Full HD, you can use a Maxwell without any problem, but if you go for 4K transcoding, Pascal will be the best, and that's here they don't show how much RAM memory that you need because have some limitation. But you go for Pascal Volta, they will allow you to transcode 4K for a low resolution, but they will use 1.2 GB. This is other thing that you need to consider. If you want to transcode 3 users in the same time, at least you're gonna need to have 4 GB of VRAM, and they will use almost all your capacity. And if you want to transcode 5, maybe they will work, but they will go for your bottleneck, that will be your VRAM. Other thing that you need to consider is that you always need to install your software for your GPU. Otherwise, they will not work well. In the Windows, it's quite easy because they have Windows Update that will download it automatically for you, and it will work. Maybe it's not the latest revision, but they will work. But if you look for a Linux, you need to download it manually, and you need to configure it. If you're using Plex, you need to put for hardware transcode, the same thing for Emby, the same thing for Jellyfin, but they will work pretty much the same, and we use pretty much the same band, and we'll use pretty much the same VRAM for it. In this case, I was explaining a little bit more for Plex, but the same usage will be for any other stream application that you're gonna use. So in this way, we finish this series how to configure our server relationship of Raspberry Pi. I know that was not a fair competition, but at least you have an idea what you need to consider when you choose your GPU. So if you like this video and think that was interesting, don't forget to leave your like, consider to subscribe for the channel, and see you next time.